Good evening. Good evening and welcome to the 25th Pacifica Sports Hall of Fame dinner. I know that you're going to enjoy tonight's program. Many of you know or have heard many of these legends that are in this room tonight and the four that are going to be inducted tonight. They're legends in their own selves, legends throughout the world, legends throughout Pacifica. We know them very well. With tonight's induction ceremony, we welcome into the Pacifica Sports Hall of Fame 4 new members. They will join 135 inductees already in the Hall of Fame, of which we're very proud of. Now, when you arrive tonight, you should have received an envelope at the registration table that has your table number on it. Inside that envelope is a ticket. It is either a red ticket, an orange ticket, a yellow ticket, a green ticket, or a white ticket. Please put that ticket on your tray, on your bread tray there, so the server can come around and serve you. What you ordered and sent in as your ticket, your food choice, is what the ticket will represent. Housekeeping rules, restrooms are right outside here, right behind us. Men and women right behind us. Tonight's program is sponsored by the Pacifica Sports Club, an organization. Hey, good have from our wife right there, Marion. She puts up with me. The dinner, the program is sponsored by the Pacifica Sports Club, an organization that has been around more than 30 years to recognize the athletes in Pacifica. We have a dinner here tonight like we do every February, and throughout the course of the year we have a breakfast for athletes, Terra Nova, Oceana, Alma Heights, and the private schools, wherever the children may go to school as a member of the Pacifica. And then we also involved with the scholarship programs with Terra Nova and Oceana. So we try to be community-based and oriented throughout the whole city. At your table, you also see a program that gives a little bit of background about our inductees tonight. So I hope that you were able to peruse that. And also, if you did not get a chance, on the reception room, there is a plaques of all the inductees tonight that I hope that you got a chance to see. Tonight's event is very special. It's the 25th year we have honored athletes throughout Pacifica. Now, I want you to please join me in welcoming tonight's special dignitaries. They are seated at their respective tables. I'll ask them to stand. First, Doreen Bosquino. Stand up, stand up. Mario DiCarlo. Stand up. Gary Emick. Stand up. Stand up, stand up. Keep standing, keep standing. And David Mercurio. David brought the whole town of Pacifica with him tonight. Tonight's program, stand up, keep standing, you guys. Tonight's program not only honors the 4 new inductees, but it salutes the athletes who have gone before them, the people who have already been inducted into the Pacific Sports Hall of Fame. Tonight, we have several with us, and we always welcome the members to come back. I'm going to introduce them, and I'm going to ask them to stand up. So please hold your applause until I finish with the last name. By this time, you will have had a glass of champagne in front of you. Hope that you have a glass of champagne in front of you. High school basketball coach with a California State title to his name, Bud Brezahan. These next individuals are high school coaches carrying championship credentials. Rich Burt, Al Fagoni, Dennis Lanterman, Don Delbon, Jack Burgett, and Bob Lottie. At the collegiate level, Skyline College Women's Championship coach Jan Fosberg. Professional volleyball athlete Carrie Trainer. Professional girls baseball Alex Oglesby, and that's a girl. University of California basketball athlete Doreen Gutierrez Panelli. A person who was involved in helping Pacifica become a city in the late 1950s and a parks and recreation advocate herself, Sheila Hyman. Another recreation leader for over 30 years in Pacifica, David Berry. A husband and wife team who has played a major role in the development of youth programs in Pacifica for over 50 years, Hazel and Don Beck. Unfortunately, Don was not able to be with us tonight. Youth sports advocate, Harry Morrow. Another community advocate for high school athletes, Rich Pucci. University of San Francisco baseball athlete and community sports advocate, Mike Mooney. San Francisco 49er Vice President of Operations, Stadium Operations, and collegiate baseball player, Jim Mercurio. A longtime Pacifica Pop Warner football coach, Bob Sanders. Known as a pride of Pacifica in his heydays, boxer John Nava. Longtime Pacifica Little League coach and administrator, Bill Hooper. And in the audience is the father of former Dallas Cowboy, San Francisco 49er, Kevin Gogan, Mr. Richard Gogan. Thank you, Hall of Famers, for being here. And thanks for everybody being here. Now, would everybody please join me in a toast to these outstanding athletes and congratulate our 4 incoming athletes. One more I missed. Bobby Lang. Where's Bobby? Bobby, stand up. A runner in himself. Right there. Bobby. Thank you, Harry. And I'd like to also introduce as a master of ceremonies, and you'll see him later tonight, the Honorable Quentin Kopp, retired judge of the San Mateo County Superior Court. Right here. Stand up, Quentin. He's judging something. Now it's my pleasure to introduce to all of us the City of Pacifica Mayor Karen Irvin. She has a special welcome for our honorees. Mayor Irvin.
Hello, everyone, and good evening. It is really wonderful to be here tonight. Hi, Mr. Mooney. And it is really great to see so many familiar faces. It really is so warming to see everybody here tonight to celebrate all of the incredible achievements that these inductees have done. So I am very honored to be here on behalf of the City of Pacifica to honor our incredible inductees tonight for their amazing achievements. I would also like to introduce, I haven't seen her yet, and there's a possibility she's not here yet, Mayor Pro Tem Sue DeGree. No, not here tonight yet, but she was going to attend, and I just wanted to acknowledge her presence and her desire to want to be here to celebrate, again, your amazing achievements. And I wanted you all to know that on February 23rd, the City Council of Pacifica presented a proclamation to the inductees for their phenomenal achievements. And I would just really like to thank Doreen Basuano and Mario DeCaro and Dave Mercurio and Eric Emick for your incredible achievements and what you have provided to Pacifica. It brings so much pride and hope in our community and means so much to all of us over the last 25 years. I would also just like to add that I am a Terra Nova graduate, 1982, woo! And it's so amazing how many other graduates I see in the audience. And like so many of you, I've also lived so many years in Pacifica, and you see this theme over the past 25 years of many of the inductees, both past and present, that have won this award. Not only do they show an incredible amount of drive and perseverance and persistence in what they do on the field, but off the field. They are leaders for their peers, they are mentors, they are there for our children in everything they do. And what really astonishes me is their achievements never ended when they graduated from high school or college. They've continued to achieve such greatness and show our community how much they can do and inspire all of us. And I am so incredibly thankful and proud to be part of the same community that you all came from. And again, I greatly appreciate how much you have meant to our youth and showing them what they are capable of doing. So I just want to really thank all of you, past and present, for giving our city so much hope and pride, for mentoring our children and letting them know what they're capable of and what they can achieve, and not to ever give up on themselves. And I also want to thank all of the inductees for showing all of us that it is never too late to achieve your dreams. There is so much hope that you give to our entire community. And so much of the time, I remember being in the community center and looking at the wall of fame, at all of the incredible achievements that so many have accomplished that are here tonight. And I am so proud to be part of the same community that you all came from. You inspired me in high school, and you've inspired me throughout the years, and you continue to inspire me, and I am grateful to be here tonight to be able to honor you and thank you for all that you've done. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Karen. And thanks very much for joining us tonight. We're also pleased to have with us tonight from the office of the State Senator Jerry Hill is Senior District Representative Corey Walbach. Come on up, Corey.
On behalf of Senator Jerry Hill, I just want to echo everything that Mayor Irwin just said, except that I didn't grow up in Pacifica, but I'm happy to be the liaison from Senator Hill's office to the wonderful city of Pacifica, and actually also the city of South San Francisco, which is nice enough to host us this evening. I just have to say I've been amazed and impressed reading the biographies and the histories of all of those inducted tonight, as well as those who I've had a chance to learn about from years past. It's truly remarkable, the athletic accomplishments, the student athletes, and everything that people have given back after exiting the field or the swimming pool or the ocean or whatever it was where they distinguished themselves. So again, on behalf of Senator Jerry Hill and the state legislature, thank you to the inductees. Thank you.
Also in the audience representing Assemblymember Kevin Mullen, District 52, is Virginia Kroger. Virginia, where are you? Come on up.
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of Assemblymember Kevin Mullen, it is my privilege to honor the inductees for this year's Pacifica Sports Hall of Fame. I am also a Terra Nova graduate. I will not tell you the year. But I am just so proud of the legacy that all of you have left for us, as well as what Horace has done with the organization, and for 25 years of honoring all of you. And I just would like to extend our congratulations to Horace as well, on behalf of all of us and Assemblymember Kevin Mullen. It gives me great pleasure to be here tonight. Thank you so much, and congratulations to all the inductees.
Thank you, Virginia. The dignitaries also have brought certificates for all the inductees, so I have them up here, and they'll be presented to them later in the program. Now, when you picked up your dinner ticket tonight, you saw that we had some nice prizes to offer. We have a television, we have hotels, we have dinners, we have bottles of wines, we have much more. So we're offering those as items as a fundraiser for the Pacifica Sports Club and the Hall of Fame. So we have tickets to sell, and we hope that everybody will take that opportunity to buy them if you have not already done so as you come in. So during the dinner, we have people walking around selling tickets. And if you don't win, that's okay. Just think that you're donating to the Hall of Fame for us to carry this tradition on down the road. So I hope you win, but if you don't, thanks for being here. We're going to sell the tickets, 15 tickets for $5, so we'll be seeing you. Now enjoy your dinner, talk amongst yourself, enjoy, come back, and we'll see you probably about maybe 30 minutes, and have a nice dinner. Thank you.
Looks like Donald Trump's. But I tell you one thing, if it wasn't for him writing for the Tribune, the circulation would go way down, because I tell you, as a little boy growing up, it was nothing better than reading horoscope. But he's, for 25 years, Horace has been the straw that stirs the drink and keeps this thing going. He never even introduces himself as an inductee, but he is. So let's have one more toast. Everyone raise your glass to Horace. Give him a big thank you. Thank you, Horace.
We're going to start the event. Thank you for doing the raffle. We're going to stop. We're going to keep the program going. They tell me it's raining outside, so we're going to be sure to get you home safe and early tonight. So thank you very much. And while you're enjoying your dessert and coffee, let me again welcome you to the Sports Hall of Fame dinner. By the way, that cake was given to us and donated to us by Mazzetti's Bakery. Was that good, or was that good? Okay, folks, I'm going to need some quiet, please, because we really want to recognize our inductees tonight. They deserve all that recognition we can give to them. So let's go on with the program and sort of keep it quiet and keep your conversations down. I know that you want to talk, but that's the reason we had the reception. It was to let you do your mixing and mingling at that time. So we really want to give all of our attention to our inductees here tonight. So once again, let me tell you about the Sports Hall of Fame. It was born out of a recognition system to honor the many athletes in Pacifica over the last 50 years. We started back in 1991 with a small Pacifica Sports Club, just recognizing the local athletes, and then we thought, hey, we need to start recognizing those athletes who went on to achieve recognition and fame, and brought recognition and fame to our community, which many of them did. Out of the 135 members that we have already, you probably have heard many of their names over the course of the last 30 years. Some of them are even known internationally, so they're very, very prominent. This is just a way of just saying thank you to those people. Those people contributed a lot to the welfare of the sports by performance, time, effort, or financial support, whether that sport be professional or amateur. Also, I hope that you had opportunities, I mentioned, to see the plaques over there, and if you did not get a chance and you're in Pacifica, and if you live in Pacifica, it's a must-see for you if you get to the community center, because the faces of these great athletes that we're going to honor tonight are on that wall down there. So next time you go to the Pacifica Recreation Community Center, look on the wall and you can read not only about them, but the other 135 inductees. So let me tell you how tonight's program works. Many people who are in this dinner tonight have gone through the system and they know how it works. So this is what we do. Tonight's program is going to go with a presenter that will come up here, tell everybody how great that person is. Then that person will then come up and tell everybody, yes, he's even better than that. So that's going to be brief remarks. As the presenter is making his remarks or her remarks to us, please look on each side of the room. You'll see the television screen. That will bring up some pictures of which you might get a kick out of the inductees, that we've taken some pictures from the time they were babies all the way up to what they look like today. So I think that you will enjoy that. Every person will receive this plaque from the Pacifica Sports Hall of Fame, as well as certificates from the dignitaries that talked earlier. And we're happy that they were able to do that. Now I'd like to introduce our Master of Ceremonies. We're so delighted to have Judge Quentin Kopp, join us tonight as our Master of Ceremonies. He was very helpful to us as individuals when we started the Sports Hall of Fame back in 1991. He really showed us how to get things going a little bit, so he's very instrumental in that background. He's been very supportive and a person to whom we've often called on for assistance. A former member of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, he has served in the California State Senate as an independent for 12 years. In 1999, he was appointed to the San Mateo County Superior County by Governor Pete Wilson. He retired in 2006, although he tells me he's not retired. He does arbitrations and things like that, sort of like that little energy buddy, just keeps going, I guess. As an elected local and state legislator for 27 years, Judge Kopp served on almost every regional government policy-making body affecting the Bay Area. I know the judge has a special heart in Pacifica because I see him often every week at Mazzetti's Bakery. So we know he loves Pacifica. He often shows up at a lot of the community events that are sponsored by Pacifica. Now, before I bring the honorable judge to the lectern, just a reminder about, what did I say? Brief. Each person is given a allotted amount of time to speak. Quentin knows how to get your attention. So what he's done, he's brought his gavel with him tonight. So if he thinks you're going over the allotted minute times, you're in trouble. And also, for the people coming up here, there's a timer. You can't see it, but there's a timer here. It goes green, yellow, and what's the next color you think it'd be? Red. When that red light goes off, they are finished. So they've got that much time to talk. So now, let's bring on the judge, Quentin Kopp.
Thank you. I thought he was going to enshrine me in some religious order. Thank you very much, Horace. Good evening, everybody. Mike knew me already, stole one of my aspirations, which was to recognize the time, the effort, the attention conferred upon this event every year by Horace Hinshaw. And it's not out of order to applaud him again. Now you've been welcomed about 3 or 4 times. I will eschew doing that again, but I do want to invite your attention and welcome recognition of a co-conspirator at Mazzetti's in the morning, the Honorable Sue DeGray, member of the City Council of the City of Pacifica. And to note the fact that the City of Pacifica was incorporated in 1957, so do the math, and this 25th anniversary is about proportional to the idea of children like the great Kevin Grogan, whose father and, nieces were sitting very close to me, because that was an era in which it took 2 high schools to accommodate all those post-World War II families who were having children. And that was the basis of the City of Pacifica. And let it never be forgotten with the Pacifica Historical Society or other commentators in the Bay Area or the state of California. Pacifica's unique. We know the history of Linda Marr and the bootleggers and this and that up the coast, but Pacifica is unique because of the nature, which wasn't easy, of the geography and the terrain. And that was true in the upbringing of every person who went through the school system, and particularly through the 2 high schools, which were so successful and continue to be successful. Look at the Terra Nova basketball team this winter. A heck of a team. Don't think I don't watch this kind of thing. Now, it's always a delight to be at the Pacifica Sports Hall of Fame dinner in South San Francisco. I happen to like South San Francisco. I had the honor of representing it for 12 years in the state senate. And where is Nick Gust when we need him to build that casino, which would inevitably meant a hotel grandiose and capable of giving honor to the people we honor tonight? Well, Horace said I could tell a joke, but I don't have any mixed company jokes, Horace. And I don't need them anymore at my age. But in any event, what I want to note before I begin to present the presenters, and Horace, and this 3-minute rule is almost dictatorial. It's not in his nature, but almost dictatorial. But to say, it's no surprise, as I re-echo a theme in one of Madam Mayor's remarks, that people honored in the past 24 years and again tonight have achieved beyond their athletic prowess in high school or outside of high school. Because it's not a cliche, it's a cliche, but it's a truism that sports breeds character. And we hope that it breeds the best kind of character, and it usually does, despite some imperfections from time to time. And with that, now that you're truly attentive, and paying attention. Here comes Ms. Walsh, back from garnering all the money for for that lottery. Look at that. Look at that pail. My gosh. Which one is mine? All right, she won't tell. But anyway, the first presenter tonight, if I say Gary Emick, will you recognize Gary Emick? He opens. Margaret, Gerard, and Gary have been married almost 27 years, lived at Pedro Point for 24. During that time, not only has Ms. Gerard supported Gary in his aquatic endeavors, and as Councilwoman DeGray knows, I swim every morning, and I've been invited to swim at Oceana, and I want to do that. During that time, not only has she supported Gary in aquatic endeavors, but encouraged him towards new activity. Living a block from Pacifica State Beach, they often walk along that beach, and here to share her husband's love of the open water, cold or semi-cold, please welcome his wife, Margaret Gerard.
Thank you for that introduction. Well, I learned two distinct things about Gary. When I first heard about the record-holding swimming events from his youth, I asked him, when did you learn to swim? And he answered with something that struck me. He said, he paused for a moment and said, I don't ever remember not knowing how to swim. Another thing was, another thing I learned about Gary is as he is going to travel his life his way. So you combine a natural passion for swimming along with a very independent outlook. Both of these have enabled Gary to strive for and achieve numerous open water swimming accomplishments. And at the same time, it's allowed me to travel along with him through a number of different venues and a number of many wonderful global sites around the world. If there's a body of water, this man is going to be in it. These adventures that we've had together have oftentimes led to misadventures, Fiji and typhoid fever being one of those. I think that was at the top of the list. But over time, I learned the best way to partner with Gary was to support whatever off-the-wall schemes he had coming up next, to try not to worry too much, and to not drink the tribal tea in Fiji. So with that, with much pride and pleasure, I'd like to introduce Gary Emick.
All right, good evening and thank you. Really, what an honor it is to be here tonight. And before I express my thanks to everybody that's helped me over the years, Horace asked me if I would share just a few anecdotes about some of my more memorable swimming misadventures that Peg referred to, and I promise I'll keep this real short. During one Alcatraz crossing, my heart nearly exploded in my chest as I saw something big and black go streaking beneath me. And, you know, your imagination only can do so much. And rolling up into a ball, I frantically looked for the next nearest pilot so I could get it out of the water. I didn't want to be on anybody's buffet table. Then all of a sudden, a very playful young sea lion breached about 5 feet in front of me. And so I went from sheer terror to, you know, laughter in a split second. On another Alcatraz crossing, after swimming out to Alcatraz, overzealous National Park Service ranger issued me a citation for illegally landing persons on Alcatraz. I can't make this stuff up. In Australia in 2009, I had the opportunity to swim the Sydney Harbour Classic, which is held right in front of their iconic opera house. Unfortunately, a mere 10 days earlier, a bull shark, and there was a picture of one up there a little bit earlier, ripped the arm and leg off a Navy diver who was doing some routine maintenance work in the water. And the swim was less than a half a mile away from where the race was going to be. So my strategy, no, it wasn't to stay out of the water. I figured I would just swim in the dead center of all the swimmers, and then the shark would have to get to the people in front of me or behind me or to the side of me before it would get to me. In Peru, this was during the late 90s, I had an opportunity to swim across the Amazon at one of its narrowest points. This was probably the swim that had the most potential to go south on me. First, a young lady, a complete stranger, insisted on swimming with me, and as I found out much, much later, she was the niece of the Peruvian president. Then there were the piranhas, which I wasn't so worried about as much as I was about the candiros. Anybody know about the candiros? They're a very small, narrow fish, and if you urinate in the water, they'll swim up your urethra. True. Luckily, I didn't pee, and the piranhas didn't, I didn't pee and the piranhas didn't eat the niece, but I still have nightmares about everything going wrong, leaving me sitting in a Peruvian jail for the rest of my life with a little fish up my you-know-what, so. And last, my all-time favorite, before I retired from my real job, I'd go swimming down at Aquatic Work before work, and this meant jumping in the water at about 5:30 in the morning, which during wintertime is still dead dark, or just still the dead of night. And my routine was to swim out to Muni Pier, for those of you that are familiar with Aquatic Park, and roll over on my back and just take in all the beautiful lit-up skyline. And as you can see, I wear glasses, and if I take them off, my vision's a little bit fuzzy. And so one morning I swam out to Muni Pier, and it was pitch black out, and I turned over on my back, and just a few feet in front of me, a black fin came up in front of me. And again, for the splittest of seconds, I was just terrified until I realized what that little black fin was just my toes coming up out of the water. So, oops. Okay, so enough for the anecdotes. Was that good enough for us? Okay. There's an old adage that says behind every successful man is a great woman, but in my case, that's really not exactly true. I've had two great women. My mother, who's come all the way from Miami for this occasion. Say hello. And my wonderful, wonderful wife who just introduced me. My mom, Janice, taught me from the earliest memories that I could do anything in life if I just simply applied myself. And, if you think about that, wow, that's such a liberating approach to living life. And there's been no limit to the number and scope of adventures I've had, along with my fair share of misadventures, as I've just related. So thank you, Mom. I love you very much. And then there's my wife, Peg, who's supported me for over 25 years, insisted on perfection that makes me look so much better than I really am, and who has allowed me time and time again to drag her off literally all over the world so I could indulge myself in yet another swimming adventure. Besides the Amazon and Australia and Fiji that she will never let me forget, there's been Lake Titicaca, Loch Ness, Gibraltar, and that extinct volcano in Costa Rica, just to name a few. And in April, we're taking off to South Africa, where I'm going to attempt to swim from Robben Island, which is where Nelson Mandela was incarcerated for all those years. So thank you, Margaret. I love you very, very much. I'm almost through, even though I'm getting down on my time here. I also owe huge thanks to my father, who passed away last year. People ask me when I learned to swim, and as Peg said, I've always known how to swim, and that's because my dad was a lifeguard when he was a little kid, or when he was a teenager, and he saw too many people drown, so he said if he was ever going to have kids, he was going to teach them how to swim from the get-go. So I have always known how to swim. And when I retired 9 years ago, I had a couple of open water swimming related ideas I wanted to pursue. And little did I realize that they would all pan out and I would end up with a second career, not as an entrepreneur, but as I like to say, an aquapreneur. So without his gift of learning how to swim, none of this would have been possible. So big thanks to you, Dad. I know you're looking down and enjoying this moment along with us. And last, I'd be remiss if I did quickly acknowledge my brother Larry, who, when we were kids, allowed me to completely 100% freak him out in the ocean off Fort Lauderdale by first lying to him and then forcing him to go a quarter-mile offshore so I could go to explore coral reef out there. He was in absolute hysterics, and he's still in therapy 50 years later. So in closing, I'd just like to say life is very short. There's a big and wonderful, diverse life out there. Explore it, experience it, enjoy it, and don't be afraid to follow your passions and dreams. So thanks very much, everybody.
Wait a minute, Margaret, where's Peg? She's supposed to give you this, Gary. Okay. Yeah. Huh? That's all. Gary, thank you very much. To all you presenters, and only you know who you are, part of the order of the day is you must return after conclusion of the inductees' 5-minute remarks to present one of these gorgeous taxpayer-supported certificates. Bob Lottie, inducted into the Hall of Fame, 1992. Terra Nova football coach, enjoying retirement with his wife Nancy in Lake Almanor in Lassen County. Coached Terra Nova to its first Central Coast Section Championship, 1982. Today he can be found playing golf, fishing, as well as spending time with 14, count 'em, grandchildren. Tonight, he, two coming. That'll be 16, not bad. Tonight, he introduces and presents his daughter into the Pacifica Sports Hall of Fame. Please give a loving round of applause to Coach Bob Lottie.
There's not much politics in Lassen County, so I don't know if he'll go up there or not. There's only 12 people in the whole county. I'm here tonight to present my daughter to you. In many cases, I know that's not needed because most of you have known my daughter as a student at Terra Nova or as a now administrator. She was a teacher and spent her whole life there with her family. Just to give you a little background on Doreen, Di Maria, Lottie Basuino, better known to a lot of you. Carrie, what's her name? Muffy, yeah. Her friends knew her as Muffy, and she's a wonderful girl. She comes from a family that didn't get it the easy way. The kids in the family, she was one of 5. She was the runt of the litter at the time, and then we had another one a little bit later on. And as you know, most runts have to put up with a lot of mental, physical, and psychological abuse. And she did. And not only did she, but she became pretty tough. And she became very competitive, because if you weren't competitive, you were out. There was no excuses. Because this family had a loving mother from hell. There was no excuses. You did what you're supposed to do, or there was consequences to pay. So she learned early that she had to take care of herself and be as tough as she could be, as competitive as she could be. And all of her siblings felt her wrath through the years. Nobody could ever beat her in hunch. She was just tough all the way. And then as she got through her years, her teen years, she was prepared to compete when she went to high school. There wasn't a lot of young girl sports at that time. This was not Title IX time. So when she got to high school, she was totally prepared to compete. Doreen Muffy, by her own admission, was not a great athlete. But I can never remember her losing. She played basketball on a basketball team that was very good. They were great. They won. She played on a volleyball team. She wasn't the best volleyball player, not by a stretch, but they won year after year. Badminton. She wasn't a great badminton player, but she won the Central Coast section. It's not a mystery. She's strong, competitive. She's a wonderful girl, and she's a winner. And just like everybody else here tonight, all of those that have been inducted, all those that will ever be inducted, the main thing is you're a winner. And my daughter is a winner.
Wow. Thank you, Dad. That was very nice, I think. So, good evening, everyone. I want to just thank all the Hall of Fame members and allowing me to be a part of your team. It's a wonderful honor. I also want to congratulate Dave and Mario and Gary. I've really enjoyed reading the articles that Horace has written about you, and I'm humbled by your achievements and your commitment to the community involvement. It's amazing. You know, I happen to have something in common with all three of you gentlemen, even though my sport of recognition is volleyball. Like Mario, as a youth, I did some wrestling, or as my family would call it, trying to get the last biscuit from Vince at dinner time. And like Dave, I played some football in elementary school. That was until the principal called my mom and told her I was no longer allowed to play because I was too rough at recess with the boys. And lastly, I did some swimming like Gary, except mine was in Lake Tahoe during the winter when I was around 4. Somehow, my dad thought it would be a good idea to use the slope of a hill leading into the lake as a sledding spot. Mom still doesn't know about that little swimming incident. So, as you can see, growing up as a Lottie was a recipe for success, developing competitive skills at a young age. We were always playing some competitive sport until the lights came on the street, and then we were told to come inside. And if it was cold outside, we turned the living room into a baseball stadium and played Nerf baseball. So it was always something. It wasn't until I got to high school that I played organized sports, and I was very, very fortunate to compete with some amazing athletes, and then I was able to go on to the volleyball, to the high school, to the college level. But in the early 90s is when I began teaching physical education and coaching. And at that time, Nike came out with a campaign, and it was titled, "If You Let Me Play." And it was directed towards girls. And it stated the following facts. If you let me play, I will like myself more. I will have more self-confidence. I will suffer less depression. I will be 60% less likely to get breast cancer. I will be more likely to leave a man who beats me. I will be less likely to get pregnant before I want to. And I will learn what it means to be strong if you let me play sports. When I saw this for the first time, I felt unbelievably grateful to my parents and for their encouragement, their support, and their sacrifice for letting me play. A copy of this slogan has been placed in my office, in every office I've ever had. Now, as principal of Terra Nova High School, I translate this not just for girls to play sports, but as youths and athletes for student involvement. Whether competing on a sports team, or the marching band, or robotics, or acting in a school play, or running for mock trial, students learn to commit to the process of practice. They learn that if you be successful at something, you need to work. And if you fail, you learn to reflect and grow. As my career has evolved, I have had the opportunity to see through a variety of lenses. What I have discovered is that the community of Pacifica is a very special place. They are committed to letting their children play. And I am glad to be in a position to ensure that extracurricular activities will always remain a top priority at Terra Nova High School. I want Horace, where are you, Horace? You are amazing. I want to thank you and putting together this Pacifica Hall of Fame year after year, and reading all your articles and how you write about youth sports. And I just love how the Terra Nova athletes to this day know who you are, and they are as affectionate towards you as we were when we were playing. So thank you. And lastly, I just want to thank my husband, Joe, who is very patient with putting up with my very, very competitive personality. So thank you, Joseph. I love you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Well done. That was heartwarming. That was wonderful. Principal at Terra Nova High School. Now, next presenter, youngest brother, baby in the DeCaro family. 6 children. Michael DeCaro attended Terra Nova, was class president his first year, freshman, and also vice president of his class thereafter. Besides working as director of information technology at Lightspeed Venture Partners, he's also executive director of Support the Kid Foundation, which is an all-volunteer entity operated by the DeCaros, which helps children with cancer. Please join in welcoming with enthusiasm Michael DeCaro to introduce his older brother, Mario DeCaro. Oh. Hello. Ooh. Michael, wonderful.
Excuse me, I'm trying to get my notes here. Okay. What are we going to? This is my beautiful daughter, Olivia, here. She's going to say something at the end. Okay. Excuse me. So I'd like to share with y'all, yes, I said y'all, a little bit about my brother Mario. I say y'all because somehow my brother Art and I ended up at Auburn University in Alabama, although we grew up in Pacifica in California. To those of you who are uninitiated in what Auburn's all about, I'd just like to say War Eagle to you, and we'll continue on with what's happening. As to how two Guatemalan, Italian, Irish gentlemen ended up in the heart of Alabama, we're not quite sure. But if you need to buy a Powerball ticket later on, we're available for an advisory service. So a little bit about my brother Mario. It's not really his wrestling record which distinguishes him as a man or a person in this world, although that is quite a distinguished record on its own. He grew up in Pacifica. He was born in Guatemala. He came at the age of 2, along with most of my family. My sister and I were born here. He's the middle child of 6 children. He's uncle to 22 nieces and nephews. And thank you to my mother and father who are here for that example. 60 years married this April. Mario learned well from these lessons and these profiles in life, and he will be married 25 years this fall to his wife, Michaeline. A little perspective about our family. In our family, we often had friendly competitions, much like the Lottie family. The competition might be about who can eat 2 eggs the fastest, who can run the fastest, who can open the door the fastest, who can answer the trivia question of the day, or whatever the case may be. But there was never a question, being a DeCaro in our house, for my father, that you were expected to excel, be the best, do the best, and try your hardest. And we all learned from those lessons, and Mario definitely learned and excelled at those lessons in wrestling. Whenever he didn't win outright, Mario was definitely at the top of the pack, and usually the runner-up, because of his perseverance, his strength, his initiative, his intuitiveness, and the drive that was within him, which served him well on the mat and off the mat. Driven people can sometimes have an abrasive side. They can push the wrong way, push too hard, but I never really got that from Mario. Mario, if you talk to him and you don't know who he is, you show up, he's got a heart of gold, he's soft-spoken, he will help anybody at any time. And the words that come to mind with me when I think about Mario are kind, open-hearted, accepting, intuitive, and generous to a fault. In recent years, I've been blessed to work with my brother on the board of Support the Kid and interact with him in a different parameter than we normally did, from big brother to little brother, and more as kind of equals and friends. And I've been blessed to continue carrying on the legacy of our nephew, Nick, who passed away, with Mario. And his philanthropy, excuse me, is very powerful and is on par with his excellence on the mat, is his excellence off the mat as a man, a human being, and a gift to our family and ourselves. So without further ado, I present to you a great man, an amazing wrestler, a man of Christ who I'm honored to call my brother, the man, the myth, the legend, and I'll leave it to my daughter, Olivia, to finish the introduction.
What am I supposed to say again?
Say, I love you, Uncle Mario.
I love you, Uncle Mario.
And here's to our 2-time All-American,
And here's to all two-time American,
Mario DeCaro.
Mario DeCaro.
That's it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Michael. I appreciate that heartfelt introduction. Thank you, Olivia. I made a mistake. When Horace told me, I thought he said 30 to 35 minutes, so my speech is really, really long. So because I thought, no, I'm joking, I knew it was 3 to 5, but I tried to do it in 3 to 5 minutes and I couldn't, so I'm going to cut out half the speech, or just half my discussion, and I'm just going to get to the heart of the matter, okay? Initially, well, first of all, I do want to say thank the good Lord for allowing me to be here tonight. 53 years of life, I don't take that for granted, and also 17 years of wrestling and only a broken nose and a broken finger, so not too bad. I want to thank my beautiful family who's here, my friends, my children, my beautiful wife who's been with me for 25 years, my parents who Michael talked about. They've been married for 60 years. That is amazing in this time and age, so good job. Lito and Lita. I was going to talk a little bit about how this is the 25th year, but all people have already done that, about how I know a lot of the people in this room, indirectly or directly. There was 45 of the 135 people that I either knew myself or a family member. And even 2 of the inductees tonight, either from a standpoint of a relative or someone that I personally knows them. Or I grew up with half the Lottie family, so we went to school together. Yep. The important half, exactly. So I'm going to try and cut it down. I'm going to talk a little quick because I couldn't get it down to less than 10. Hopefully this will take 5. So there was a renowned... Don't worry, we're ahead of schedule. Okay. Because I'm a fast talker, so that'll help. Okay. Renowned physicist Isaac Newton said this: "If I've seen further than any other man, it's because I stood on the shoulders of giants." So tonight, what I'd like you to come away with is how I was able to achieve the things I did in wrestling. Ultimately, it was the family I grew up with. It had a lot to do with my success. A bit of a love story. My family started in 1955 when a young man, Art DeCaro, met a young lady, Dina DeCaro, Dina Stella Ruiz. They married in 1955. Like I said, they'll be married 60 years in April this year. And so my mom and dad were living in Guatemala at the time, and they started a family, and they had the determination and the desire to seek a better future for their children. So they decided they would sacrifice and come to the United States. But given the economic circumstances, my dad would have to initially come alone, and this was in the early 1960s. And by the way, he did come to the U.S. legally, just to let you know. He temporarily left my mom there in Guatemala with 3 children and another one on the way. In America, he started working for Pacific Gas and Electric Company, and he saved enough money about a year later to send us for the family. And just a side note, he worked for PG&E for the next 33 years. So at the time that we arrived in the U.S., family of 4, we settled down in where else? The city of Pacifica. And the city of Pacifica, we resided on the Linamar side at 628 Arguello Boulevard. Art and Dina went on to have 2 other children here in America, and so my father, being a big believer of taking care of your own weight, he basically put us a little to work. All 4 of us had paper routes. Back then, kids used to do that kind of stuff. Deliver Tribune. My brothers and sisters attended almost every single school here in Pacifica: Pedro Valley, Cabrillo, Valley Mar, ultimately Terra Nova High School. As my brother had mentioned, all 6 of us went to college. 2 attended Auburn University. 1 went to Cal Berkeley, another to St. Francis University, and 2 of us to San Francisco State University. In addition, thank you. In addition, all 4 of the boys also shared in military experience. My oldest brother, Art, went to the Navy. He went in as enlisted man, and he came out as an officer. He served 20 years. He flew helicopters in the Gulf for 4 years, risking his life. My younger brother, Robert, went in as a corpsman into the Navy. He became, all right. There you go. And then he basically became a respiratory therapist, and while working in Scripps Hospital, was able to help Mother Teresa when she was sick. And she actually sent him a thank you note for that. Yep. He's now a physician's assistant. I served 4 years as a Marine Reserve. Hoorah! That's right. My younger brother, Michael, who introduced me, he was basically, he went into Devil Pups when he was young, because my dad, big believer, get in there, military. And then he also went to ROTC, and ultimately graduated from Marion Military Institute in Alabama. So now a little bit about my mom. She's a great lady. She was originally trained as an educator in Guatemala, a teacher, and planned on becoming a teacher until she got married. So her background as a teacher was instrumental in raising us 6 kids and teaching us the subjects necessary to be successful. On another side note, my 2 sisters, Annabelle, who's here from New York, who flew in to see me, and my other sister, who's not here, are both excellent teachers, bilingual, ESL. They're phenomenal. And so they followed her footsteps. Since my father was a surveyor, he was gone about 1 week at a time. So my mom ended up raising us almost single-handedly with 6 kids during the week. So that is really tough. If you think military duty is tough, try raising 6 kids. That's Herculean. Speaking of Herculean, my sister Annabelle, who's here, my oldest sister, not only does she care for her husband, who had a stroke many years ago, she also lost her firstborn son at the age of 28 to cancer. But she continues to keep his memory alive, serving through the Support the Kid Foundation, which my brother talked about. And if you guys can, www.supportthekid.org. Like us on Facebook. If you have a Facebook page, we appreciate it. And lastly, my youngest brother, Michael, who basically does work as an IT specialist in the private equity sector, but he's voluntarily taken on the role as the executive for the Support the Kid Foundation, and he basically directs us on how to approach the world and help kids with children with cancer. So after all that, if you could see, if you take into consideration the strength, the resiliency, the amazing family that I came from, you can see how I couldn't help but become successful in wrestling. And lastly, I owe a great deal to my success, not only to my family, to my previous teammates. Gil Almonte was a previous recipient. Phil Almonte, his brother, who's my assistant coach. Dave Moore, one of my best friends, along with many of the coaches that helped me, all my workout partners, and all those I've trained. 3 words: determination, sacrifice, and desire. Thank you once again for inducting me to Civic Hall of Fame.
Hold on. I should, let me just hold this. Let me hold this. This is the official recognition by the Pacifica Sports Club. And the 2 prior inductees have received it, but just so that you are again familiar with it.
Thank you very much.
And that's number 1. And then I will categorize 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 certificates honoring, recognizing Mario and the other 3 inductees from various holders of the public trust, elected public officials.
Thank you.
Mario,
Thank you.
Thank you. It is a night of family connections, which is logical because of the nature of Pacifica, the quality of living in Pacifica, and Pacifica's proud, strong history. Our newest, in the sense that he is the 4th and last of tonight's inductees, David Mercurio, is presented by his brother Jim. Jim is Vice President of Stadium Operations for the professional football team known usually as the San Francisco 49ers. Jim was inducted into the Sports Hall of Fame in 2012. He has been employed by the 49ers for 20 years. He's the person you may have seen on newscasts when the 49ers moved into their new stadium called Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara. Tonight, he is happy to present his brother into the Hall of Fame. Please give Jim Mercurio a nice hand.
You ready for this?
I'm going to be light on you tonight. You just should know that. Yeah. All right, so Horace told me that I have 3 minutes, and he's already started the clocks, but you know I'm going to take 6, don't you? Yeah, I'm going to take 6. A wise man once said, I give to you your name. I'm already getting emotional already. I give to you your name, my name. And he said, please don't bring shame upon it. The truth be said, he also said, I brought you into this world, I'll take you out. Huh? That was our dad. That was our dad, Anthony Mercurio. And it was all in the context with where he, thank you. It was all in the context where our mom and our dad were attempting to establish some guidelines, parameters, so to speak, how they wanted, probably a little more than that, how they expected their children to represent them in our family name. I cannot stand before you tonight to tell you that we got it right all the time, but what I can say is, David, not only have you kept your promise, you've protected the integrity of our namesake, and you've done so with great poise, with great purpose, and honor. Your parents, your family, and friends here tonight are so damn proud of you. What a year for you. Several months ago, David was honored and recognized in the Pacifica Northwestern Regional Volunteer of the Year for his contributions to the youth of Pacifica and Pacifica youth football and cheer, where he was flown. What? Did I get it wrong? Where he was flown to Florida, where he so proudly represented his region. A few months later, actually not very long ago, David was inducted into the actual Pop Warner Football Hall of Fame. And now tonight, you're being recognized by your home team, your city, and you're being inducted into the Pacifica Sports Hall of Fame. Congratulations, my man. So David was he was one of 8 kids, the youngest, in fact, which meant he would either be benefiting greatly from the experiences of those that came before him or cursed by them. I'd like to try and take credit for paving the way for a few things, but as it turned out, he was the baby and our mom's favorite. Well, that is, here it comes, Joe, right? Well, that is, I guess, depending upon what version of the truth you believe. But nonetheless, by the time he came around, my parents just had essentially given up and relaxed all the rules and curfews. They knew that David wasn't one to worry about it, but knowing that, he milked it pretty good. He was smart. Notice I speak in the past. A gifted child, they would say. Oh, there's a number of jokes begging to be said here, but Falcone, this is the wrong audience, my man. I think he was even enrolled in the gifted program once, weren't you? Yeah. He was a good kid, a good student, a pretty decent athlete, but he was left-handed and had bad hair, so that combination really never worked well for him. What did work well was that he seemed to have a knack and an uncanny ability to see the good in people. All ethnicities, all ages. It never mattered where he came from, he was drawn to them and people were drawn to him as a kid, as a teenager, as an adult. It's no doubt one of the reasons why he's a successful coach, why he's a successful league president, and probably his most important title, a father. So Anthony and Dante, if I can have your attention for just one moment. You might not realize this, but your dad's pretty cool. And when you grow up, take your time though. One's sleeping, but I'll talk to you. When you grow up, take your time. But when you do grow up and you're in search of a role model, a friend, someone you most likely and want to be like, choose your dad. Okay? I will tell you, I have, and it certainly worked for me. Ladies and gentlemen, I know I speak to you tonight with some bias. We all have someone we admire and we love, especially here tonight. But if you indulge me, if only just for a moment, I invite you to get to know him and love him like the rest of us do. I proudly present to you my brother by chance, my friend by choice, tonight's fourth inductee into the Pacifica Sports Hall of Fame, my not-so-little brother, David Mercurio. The stage isn't big enough for the two of us, but leave it to the Mercurio. And he's not even drinking tonight. Hey,
Well, you know, I couldn't come up with a good joke tonight, so I figured I'd scrub on my face. Holy smokes. Yeah. And I told myself, hey, make sure you don't fall, and then, oh, jeez. Anyways. Yikes. I'd like to start off tonight by saying thank you to Horace and to the Pacifica Sports Club. I can't believe I just fell. That's... Whew. But Horace, what you do for the sports community in Pacifica and the community as a whole is nothing short than amazing. And I'd also like to congratulate my fellow inductees, Gary, Mario, and Doreen. It's truly an honor to be able to share in this incredible moment with each of you tonight. You know, when I received the packet in the mail notifying me that I was selected to the Hall of Fame, you know, one of the first things I noticed was a list of all the current inductees. And I thought to myself, you know, what an impressive list, you know. And even as I stand before you tonight, I can't help but think of how surreal all this really is. I mean, to be mentioned in the same breath as some of the greats like Coach Gray and Jack Burgett, Bob Lottie, you know, Bill Hooper, Bob Sanders, Carl Valero, and of course my brother Jim. It's very, very humbling, almost to the point of intimidating. So many outstanding men and women have come before me, many of whom I've grown up watching, play, and read about in the Tribune. So I can't say enough how proud I am to be and humbled to be part of such an elite group. I've lived in Pacifica my entire life, since I was 8 years old. I was a three-sport athlete playing baseball for Pacifica National Little League, CYO basketball for the Good Shepherd Blazers, and I also played Pop Warner, as you can see. My brother Jack was my Little League coach. The first few years we won a few championships, including the city championship against the American League, and we've won a couple titles at the District 52 with Hooper. And while we didn't enjoy the same amount of success in Pop Warner, to be quite honest, we were pretty awful. It was still some of the greatest memories I've had. I mean, we were terrible. You look at this picture of me when I was wearing these uniforms, the awful green, gray, and white, ugly white helmets, and one of the best memories I had was, you know, our coaches told us, you know, to be part of this team, you got to earn your stripes. You got to earn your stripes on your helmet. And that day finally came, and so excited to go home and tell my brothers, hey, got the stripes. And he looked at the helmet and he started laughing. And he says, well, I'm 9 years old. I don't what's so funny? He says, those aren't helmet stripes. That's gray duct tape with green electrical tape on the top of it. And it is the most horrible things I've ever, you know, had. But we were proud of it, though. We got our stripes, you know. But I attended Oceana High School, continued playing baseball, football, basketball. Although I gave up basketball after my sophomore year when I realized I was too slow, couldn't dribble, and apparently couldn't walk. Towards the end of my freshman year, I was called up to the varsity baseball team, and it was one of the highlights of my playing career. Not just because, hey, I'm a freshman on vars, but I had a chance to play with my big bro and kind of see how it's really done. It was a cool time for me. As a sophomore, I was a two-way starter with the varsity team under tutelage of Coach Gray, and had I guess the honor of playing on the last football team at Oceana High School. So I joined the Tiger Sharks in 1996, 20 years ago. I ran into Bob Sanders, who actually used to coach me back when I played. and he was trying to get me into playing. I was like, it's not something I'm thinking about doing. So I initially said no. And a year later, when I was working for Bal Rahman and Shirley Matias at McDonald's in Pacifica, their kids were playing. I was like, come on, man, we need a coach. So I thought about it, and I was like, I'm going to go home and talk to my brother Jack, because here's the weird thing about it. At the time, I didn't even know Pop Warner was back in Pacifica. 10 years prior, it folded because there was lack of participation, and Jack had the difficult decision of having to pull the plug on it. So it was kind of came as a shock to me. So I figured, hey, Jack, what do you think? His advice to me was, don't do it. Stay far away from it, because you're going to get sucked in. It's gonna suck you right in. And he goes, I'd hate for you to go through what I did 10 years ago. But despite his warning, I decided to join the board anyway. And 20 years later, I think it's safe to say that Jack was right. I got sucked in real quick, but for me, it was one of the best decisions I've ever could have made. Even still, I was a bit nervous because I was getting involved in something that I had no knowledge of, no experience in doing. I had no idea what a board member does. I had no idea what a coach means or what they do. But I quickly began to realize that I was more prepared for it than I thought. And I also know that I didn't have to look too far for support. My parents were always involved in everything we did as kids, especially sports. They served at the board level in Little League. My mom was team mom. They ingrained the importance of us of being good sports at an early age. Winning with respect, but even more so when we lost. Being good sports when you lose. And they were the type of people that would always do things for others and instill those qualities in us at a very early age. Like I said, Jack was my baseball coach. He also coached me, Pop Warner. But he was also the president prior to me being president, so he kind of paved the way for me. So the idea of being a board member and a coach really wasn't that foreign to me, I've had many other mentors along the way. Coach Gray, for example, probably one of the best mentors you can ever have. He was always willing to sit down and talk football, talk about how to run an organization, how to manage a staff. Like I mentioned, Bob Sanders. He was my coach, but when I first started, he became an assistant under me, which was kind of odd. He's about 142 years old. So, 143. All right, still ticking. But the thing was, he taught me an early lesson later on, okay, in the importance of listening to others. Now, it's been said that I can be a tad bit stubborn at times. Okay, I'm not sure how that rumor started, but it's out there, right? But after one of our seasons concluded, I had asked him, "Hey, are you going to come back and coach?" And he says, "Well, it depends. Depends if Lyndon McGee is coming back." And I says, "Well, what's that got to do with anything?" And he says, "Well, he says because you're a prick." And he says, "Well, you don't listen. We know that the only way we can get through to you is if you listen to Lyndon. It kind of taught me, really early on in my career, I really got to start listening to these other guys, because a lot of guys that brought a lot to the table. Another great mentor of mine, Mr. Joe Chobia, okay, our Pop Warner Conference Regional Commissioner. His passion and the desire to provide an excellent program for so many kids for so many years is inspiring. He leads by example, and to show me what it takes to build a successful program. I have so much respect for the work that he and his wife Dottie have done all these years, and I'm honored that they're here tonight to celebrate this honor with me, so thank you very much. And of course, here's my brother Jim. I've looked up to him my whole life, watching him succeed in everything he does, whether it was as an athlete, a coach. Thank you, sweetheart. Or in his professional career, you can't help but take notice of the things that he's accomplished in his life. In many ways, he's been my life coach, and he's a big part of why I am the man I am today, especially my size. Those of you that know him will agree that he doesn't sugarcoat things, and in fact, I'm not sure he's ever told me anything I want to hear. Instead, he always tells me what I need to hear. He's taught me that in order to make it in this world, you have to meet challenges head on, and not, as he would say, put your head in the sand. I can't tell you how much his advice and guidance has helped me throughout my life, both personally and professionally. So again, I thank you, man. As an organization, the Tiger Sharks have been very successful over the years. We've had numerous championships on the field, at conference and regional levels. Additionally, our cheerleaders compete for the national champions in Florida almost annually. In fact, this past December, our junior Pee Wee cheerleaders placed 4th in the nation, bringing home a trophy for the first time in our history. Okay. Most importantly, though, each year nearly 90% of our football players and cheerleaders earn scholastic honors from Pop Warner, with many advancing to regional and national levels. It makes me proud to see all the great things that these student athletes have been able to accomplish over these years. I know I'm rambling, but I'll try to wrap this up quickly. I think it's fair to say that I have a lot invested in the Pacifica Tiger Sharks. For me, it's like a second job. Okay, I mean, even though the season goes through August and December, many people don't realize that we're working year-round to prepare for next season. Oftentimes, I come across people that don't realize that Pop Warner is 100% voluntary. We don't get paid to do it. And I've been asked many times why I would be crazy enough to do what I do, putting in all that time, dealing with all the drama that comes with youth sports, et cetera, and not be paid for it. And what they don't realize, although I don't get paid in dollars and cents, I get paid in many other ways. I get paid when I see a player make a big play and say, "Coach, did you see that?" I get paid when I see the excitement of one of our cheerleaders when they do a back handspring for the first time. I get paid when I run into parents like Joe Panko and be told every single time I see him, "Thank you, Coach, you've turned my boys into men." I get paid when I drive around town and I see Tiger Sharks logos on every car in Pacifica, and knowing that I had something to do with that. I mean, what could be better than being in a position to help guide young student athletes to be good citizens, to do well in school, to make smart choices, and to be able to teach them good life lessons? The X's and O's are fun, but don't get me wrong, but it's more than that. These kids look up to us the same way we used to look up to our coaches. And the sad reality is that for many of these kids, we're the only father figures they may have. So I take pride in knowing that the forum that we provide in keeping them out of trouble and giving them an avenue to release these frustrations that they may deal on any given day. And in the most basic form, it gives them the opportunity to just be kids and have fun and get away from all the craziness in this world, if only for a couple hours. We get to do all this and still be involved in a game that we have a passion for. It doesn't get much better than that. Now, I've been very fortunate to be in the position that I am, and I say this because this organization has given me so much more than I've given it. I'm incredibly thankful that I've had the privilege of coaching and with some of the brightest football minds around, some of which were lifelong friends prior to my involvement, and others that I would never have met otherwise. I'm talking about guys like Lyndon McGee, Dan Constantine, Bob Sanders, Ben Perotti, Kevin Harris, Sean Marchetti, Noel Jaimes, Andre Kelly. I've learned early on in my coaching career that in order to be successful, you have to have people around you that are as good at or better than you. And with each of these guys, that is every bit the case. I've had a pretty successful reign during my 15 years of coaching, but none of this would have been possible without the outstanding support and cast I was lucky to have. So my hat's off to you guys. I'm also thankful for the board of directors I've had, the board of directors and staff, past and present, many that are here tonight. My brother Jack, Mike Biancalana, Chelsea Rutledge, Gary Moore, Tina Yanazzo, Ryan Marr Wyatt, Lisa Fabiani, Christy Hildreth, Bob and Pat, and many, many more. All these people put countless hours in and play a huge part in the success that we've had over the years and make me better at what I do. Okay, so again, my hat's off to all of you. But most of all, I'm thankful that my involvement in Tiger Sharks, through my involvement, I've met the love of my life, my wife, Nikki. Here we go. She's been involved in the Tiger Sharks nearly as long as I have. We met many years ago when I was coaching football. She was coaching cheer. A few years later, I bamboozled her into somehow agreeing to marry me. But Pacifica never had a cheer squad go to Florida until she came along, you know. And now, I mean, I've lost track of the times that they've sent teams over because of all the hard work she's done. And now, not only does she coach, but she's a board member. She's our cheer athletic director, and she's really good at making sure I don't screw it all up. Being the president of an organization like this is a demanding job, and in order to be successful at it, you have to have someone that is going to be supportive of you every step of the way. And to say that Nikki has been supportive is a gross understatement. In many ways, she's the brain behind this operation. Simply put, I wouldn't be standing here tonight if it weren't for her support, wisdom, guidance, and love. She's my rock, she's my biggest supporter, oftentimes my biggest critic. If you ever want to see some fireworks, you're all welcome to come to a board meeting anytime. But yet she's the first one to tell me when I do well. And most of all, she's given me two beautiful sons, Anthony and Dante, that make me proud every single day. And for that, I'll never be able to repay her. I don't know that I deserve her, but I do know that I'm the luckiest guy in the world because of her. She's also brought me one of the best mother-in-laws a guy could have, Kim Capagianis. I can't imagine what my life would have been like had I listened to my brother Jack's advice 20 years ago and decided not to get into this program. But I got to tell you, I'm sure glad I didn't listen to you, brother. Yeah. I'm going to close with one quick story, and I'll make it as quick as I can. I know I'm over time. But as you can imagine, running this type of a program puts a strain on your family. I mean, there's so many meetings and things and events we got to go to, and many times, you know, it's not fair to my little guys. It's not fair to my wife. And I remember telling Lyndon, man, you know, I love what I do, but sometimes I think it's unfair to my wife and kids. You remember this? And as a coach himself, he understands the struggle. And he told me, he goes, you know, I struggle with the same thing too. But then I also realize that it's good that our kids see us doing what we do, because they see us doing great things for so many people. And it'll teach them the benefits of helping others, and it's something that helps build their character as well. And he's right. And in fact, I started seeing the results a few weeks ago. Nikki and I were headed to a board meeting, and Anthony told her that he wants to someday be president with his daddy of the Tiger Sharks. But she told him he can't be president because I'm the president, but how about being vice president? And he was cool with that, but he added, no more meetings though. I don't want anything to change. Leave everything exactly the way it is, including the uniforms. Sound like somebody you know, right? But I mention this because I think it's important to give back to the community whenever we can, you know, especially a community like ours, which has done so much for so many people. I've benefited in ways that I would have never thought possible, and I will always be grateful for the many coaches, mentors, and administrators that have touched my life in a positive way. There's not a better feeling in the world when you see a smile on a kid's face and knowing that you played a part in that. And we're always looking for great people to join our team. Remember, an organization is only as good as its people that are involved. So if you haven't thought about volunteering, I encourage you to do so. And if you have considered doing it, give us a call. It just may be the best decision you'll ever make. So thanks very much. He tells me to be careful going down. What a nice guy this guy is.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I pronounce judgment upon this event as a kaleidoscope of the city of Pacifica and what it has meant over these past 50-plus years, and as a kaleidoscope of America. There is no better representation of what our country stands for than those 4 stalwart worthies who have been inducted tonight into the Pacifica Sports Hall of Fame. And I am pleased that Madam Mayor, Councilwoman DeGray were here to convey that at the very next meeting of the City Council. And I count on you, Editor Hinshaw, to convey that to all the readers of the Pacifica Tribune. Thank you.
How about a nice round of applause for Judge Quentin Kopp? Thank you very much for sharing all that with us tonight. And before we close tonight's program, I'd like to encourage anybody who has a candidate as a potential, don't leave, you guys. We're going to do a raffle, so you might win a car. No? Okay. The name's not going to be called. If you have somebody that you think is a potential candidate as a Sports Hall of Famer for the program, send me a note, give me a call, let me know. You may have somebody in your mind that's done some historical things in Pacifica for the last 25 years. Now I want to give away some prizes, okay, you guys? Quentin, come on back up. I'm going to ask Quentin to help us with the drawing. And while Quentin's coming up, we got Hazel as our coordinator bringing stuff up. Now, if you don't win a prize tonight, I'm not drawing this. He's drawing. Blame him. Blame him.
Yeah.
Right there.
The reason he asked me is because I'm the only honest judge in the house. Who's these? Wait a minute. Don't these belong in there? Huh? Here.
Well, the Mercurials did the whole show tonight, folks. Thank you, Quentin. Oh, let's keep that. Yeah, keep that. Well, folks, you know what? We've been given a look at the of the history of our 4 honorees tonight, which has been a fantastic evening. Let's give once again another round of applause for our 4 inductees: Doreen, Mario, Gary. Where'd he go? Where's Dave? Dave! Looking for her. Dave. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for coming. We hope that you've enjoyed yourself. We try to put on a nice program for you. We'll see you next year, same time. So be sure you circle the calendar for the last month, Saturday of February. Enjoy yourself. Thanks for coming. Safe drive home. I need the inductees up on stage. I need the inductees up on stage. Don't go, Dave. Gary, stay right here.
Thank you. You did a great job.
Oh.
Thank you.
Mario. Yeah, no, I want you to take them right over there with that plaque, right there. Go follow her. Take all 4 of them. Follow her.
Okay.
Follow her. I left my stuff on my table.
Yeah, you're fine. Yeah, that'd be good.